Yo, what's up YouTube? Firefist Chris here, and today I'm bringing you guys a deck profile of my Ivankov deck I've been playtesting for OP-02. This is a deck I've been anticipating since the start of OP-02. I've been playtesting on the online simulator, so I am happy for the pre-release weekend. I was actually able to get the cards to put it together. So I'm going to go ahead and do a deck profile here now and just show you what I run. Obviously, if you don't know, for Ivankov, end of your turn, if you have 0 cards in your hand, you draw 2 cards. So kind of the play style for the whole deck in general is early game, you want to counter aggressively, and as the game goes on, you only really want to keep like 1 to 0 cards in your hand, just so you can have the ability for the blockers to get the 2000 bonus, as well as to get your Ivankov and Luffy plays off to be able to draw cards and see what you need to see. So I'll go straight into the deck profile here now, and I'll just explain the choices for some of the cards. So pretty standard for pretty much, I think, most of all the blue decks. 4 Peronas. This is, especially for this deck, it doesn't work the same like Dofi, but this allows you to stack your deck and be able to draw into cards using new comma land. So really useful, just being able to stack your deck and draw into something you need to see. It's an enabler for the blue deck. Obviously, you need to run 4 of this card. You need to see this. And then a new addition for the Ivankov deck, obviously we have 4 Buggies. Buggy's a new card, which allows blue to actually have a searcher. So you can look, it's a Nami, pretty much you look at the top 5 cards if you're at the top of your deck, and then you can add a blue impelled down card other than himself. So obviously really good. You want to see this in combination with Perona to get the Ivankov, as well as any pieces you need to be able to clear board or just manage resources better. Next we have 4 Alvida. Really, you don't really ever play it. Only time you really use it is obviously just because it is a 2K counter, and it's really strong, especially in Ivankov. You want to play a lot of 2K counters to be able to defend like kind of aggressively, and then you could replenish your hand with the leader's ability. So that's kind of like a lot what the playstyle revolves around. In that same regards, we have 4 Doflamingos. So Doflamingo, kind of similar to our Perona, where this just allows you to stack your deck, and then obviously he's also a blocker. So it is really useful. I would suggest just always running 4 in this deck, as well as just in blue in general. So not much you can say about that. It's obviously just a great card. Now for some of the newer cards, 4 Mr. 3. So Mr. 3 is actually really good because he's kind of like the Captain Kidd, the 7-drop, where he's a blocker that's both aggressive and defensive. So obviously he's a 4/5 blocker, 1000 counter. However, at the end of your turn, you can trash 1 card from your hand and then set this card as active. Now, this has good combability with your leader ability, because if you keep 1 card in your hand, you attack with this on your turn, you can pitch that card first to restand himself, and then now that since you have 0 cards in hand, you can actually draw 2. So just being able to attack on your turn with him, as well as defend on your opponent's turn, really useful. You can also summon him off the 7-drop. I would say that all the 4-drop blockers that they made for the impel downs are just really, really good. So going on with that same trend, we have Inazuma, which if you don't know, if you have 1 or less cards in your hand, this character gains 2000. Now, this is both works for the blocking aspect and then the attacking aspect. So if you have, obviously one or less card, you get to 4-drop 7000 power that you can block with, or on your turn you can attack with 7k. So obviously dropping multiple of it just really is useful. I wouldn't run any less than 4. Next, kind of going into more 2k counters, Mihawk. Honestly, don't ever play it. You're really just pitching this for the 2k counter. Never really became relevant actually trying to summon it. Kind of in the same token, which is Mr. 2. So he's an interesting card. You play him, obviously it's a 5/5. However, it's a 2000 counter. So it's kind of the reason why you play it. For his ability, it's not the greatest ability. So Dawn 1, when attacking, you can trash a card from your hand, and then you can place a character with a cost or 2 or less to the bottom of the owner's deck. So obviously that effect is good, but then at the end of your turn, at the end of the battle, you have to place this character at the bottom of the owner's deck. So it kind of forces you to kind of lose this, for using this ability, to losing him on the field. So I would really never suggest summoning him, just using it for 2k counter. Next we have 3 Crocodile. It's a 5/7 that you can easily drop with Ivankov. Honestly, this card is just really good, just being a 5/7. It's going to help you in a lot of matchups, especially in OP-02, going against green, going against Whitebeard especially, which this deck actually surprisingly has a decent matchup against. And really usually the kind of the worst matchups for this deck is more, depending on how the playstyle is more like rush. Sometimes early aggression can kind of be a detriment if you don't get an established board by having 7 Dawn. So we'll go to our next piece. We have 4 of the Monkey D. Luffy. Now, honestly, this is kind of the reason why I think this deck is so good. It's a 6/7, no counter. However, on play or when attacking, you can trash 2 cards from your hand and then return a character with a cost of 4 less to the owner's hand. So that could be your opponent's as well as your own. So if you wanted to bounce something back to your hand, like for example, summoning, pitch out 2 cards, summoning Perona, stacking your deck, and then at the end of your turn, now that you have 0 cards, you draw 2 cards, so you can kind of stack it so you can get your the cards that you just stacked with his with the Ivankov's ability. This card also gains double attack, which obviously is just such a good ability in this game. And I am happy I was able to actually manage to get to the alternate arts. I do think it's one of the better alternate arts in OP-02. It's not much you can really say about this. You're really just summoning this off of Ivankov. Occasionally, depending on the board, the state of the board, you might want to just summon it by itself to just, if you need to get rid of something. But not really much you can say about that. It's just a really good card. And then obviously, I think kind of the reason why this deck is, it is really good as well in combination with the Luffy is for Ivankov. It's not much you can say. It's a 7-drop 7, no counter. However, its ability is just really good. On play, you can draw cards, so you have 3 cards in your hand. And then you can play a blue Impel Down character with a cost of 6 or less from your hand. So obviously this can get out the Luffy. This can get out any of your blockers, the Crocodile, anything with Impel Down, it can bring out. So obviously it's just a really good card, especially if this is the only card in your hand and you stack your deck correctly. You can drop this, draw 3 cards, summon what you drew off, and now you have 2 extra cards and 2 free bodies on the field. So it's just really good, especially in combination if you have the Luffy or you stack the Luffy, then you could just pitch to 2 cards, bounce something, and your turn draw 2 more cards. This deck kind of goes through the deck pretty fast. A lot of times you can kind of out-resource your opponents in a lot of matchups. So obviously a great card. Next, still playing the 2 Mihawk. Was playing 3. Honestly, I don't think 3 is really necessary in this deck. You definitely still need to see it. Obviously, if on play, you just put something back with a cost of 7 or less. It's just a great beater. Not really much to say. I mean, if you're playing blue, you should probably be playing this. So 2 Mihawks, and that was it for the character cards. Now, really for the only event cards I play 2 of the Brickfist. 2-drop, return a character with the cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand. So this is honestly really good because it doesn't have to be, same thing as before with the Luffy, it doesn't have to be your opponent's cards. So a lot of times you can bounce back your own Doflamingo blocker, summon it again, restack your deck, use new combo land, draw into what you need to get into. So it's just a lot of combos you can do with this. So obviously I just think that, this card is a really good card, as well as getting rid of your opponent's blockers, or like if you're going against green or red, you can get rid of their Marcos so they can't just keep bringing it back with that ability. Bouncing cards is just really good in this game. And then last but not least, I have 3 new combo lands. New combo lands obviously is just a great stage card for this deck. and enables a lot. It allows you to draw a card every turn. So you're just seeing a lot of your deck in addition to your normal draw. So if you don't know, you can rest this stage. If your leader's Ivankov, you draw a card, trash a card, and then you can trash up to 3 cards. Now this is really good because, say for example, you have you're trying to get more of an established board, and you don't really need the stuff in your hand since you can get resources with your leader's ability. If you have Ivankov, you use this to draw a card. You pitch everything. If you stack your deck right, you pitch everything until you only have Ivankov in your deck. In your hand. Then you summon the Ivankov. You draw 3 cards, summon what you need to, and you have 2 cards. And just new combo is just really good. But all in all, that was my deck profile for the Ivankov deck. Obviously, blue is not the strongest color in OP-02 or even just in general. However, it doesn't mean it can't win matchups. I think like when you go into certain matchups, as long as you play correctly and just kind of have an established board, a lot of times like people kind of look down on blue, but you can kind of surprise them with some of the abilities that you have, as well as the high stats that you have, because you can easily attack into Whitebeard and matchups like Zoro, for example. You can kind of starve them with resources by not attacking their life, clearing the board, bouncing things to hand like Robin. Just in general, like there's a lot you can do with this deck. And even against black, I think this has a decent matchup against black, because even if they pop one of your like Luffy's or Ivankov or anything like that, you can easily get your board established again and be able to attack into their Akainus, the Kuzans, Borsalinos, without putting Dawn on things, which is really important. But that was it, guys. That was my deck profile on the Ivankov deck. I will be looking to make another deck profile I'll be coming up with is Kinemon for OP-02. However, guys, in the meantime, please do like, comment, and subscribe, as it does help the channel. And that's Firefist Chris signing out. Peace.